What the hell, Ghost Recon Breakpoint? What are you doing? Let's break down why Breakpoint is such a mess. Gameplay, whole different story, but narratively, whew, what is going on? So we start off with this run-of-the-mill, very cliche, glossy, dystopian, advertisement goes dark video. Yeah, you've seen it before. It's important to note right off the bat here that this opening little video bit and pretty much everything in this whole intro assumes that you have watched most of the promotional content for Breakpoint and or played the Epilogue Wildlands DLC, because what you'll quickly begin to discover is this game does extremely little to give you any information about the world and the characters. It assumes that you've done a lot of homework beforehand, of course, which not everyone has done, especially since this is an open beta for people to try out for free. So I imagine a lot of people will be completely lost on where this is set, who the characters are, and what exactly is just going on in general. Moving on to the opening of the game then, and we see the classic military objective summary. And that's about all you're going to get for the setup of this story. You don't know who you're playing as, what restore communications even means, what the Navy ship was doing before it got sunk, or if that's even relevant to why it was sunk in the first place. They just need to get you on the island somehow, and this was the easiest way to do that, I imagine. So here you go, you're going to the island because the ship sunk. That's it. Now, I'm going to make a quick comparison to Wildlands here because it's obviously the most relatable game to Breakpoint, seeing as, well, it's the prequel to this. Oh, you didn't know that Breakpoint is the direct sequel to Wildlands? Well, I don't blame you. Nothing tells you that in this game. In fact, even if you did know that this was the sequel to Wildlands, but you hadn't actually played Wildlands, you might be forgiven for even thinking the Navy ship and the events preluding Breakpoint were where Wildlands left off. But no, it's completely unrelated. There's nothing to establish any consistency here at all. It wants you to know about what happened before, but what happened before doesn't really matter that much. It would be so easy to just include this information in the beginning. For example, in Wildlands, we had an albeit simple but effective intro cinematic brief from the head of operations, whereby the reason for your character's involvement in the plot is established, the setting is established, the key characters are introduced, the main objective of the entire game is set up, and the villain is established. You know within 3 minutes what you're getting with the full experience. And these 3 lines of text do nothing to set that up. But maybe they'll elaborate shortly. Let's find out, shall we? So we see some characters in helicopters. Again, if you played Wildlands, you might recognize a couple of guys here as being part of your squad from before, but outside of that, there's no dialogue, no interactions, no character setup, no introductions, nothing. We move swiftly then into the character creator, and Jesus Christ, who decided to light the character creator with one dim red light on one side and a dim green light on the other side? Fuck. Aside from the obvious white character models and the black character models, it's really hard to distinguish the skin color and ethnicity of the character models. Is this guy Asian or Hispanic? I'm gonna have to just guess and find out when I get into the game, apparently. So you blindly pick and select your character that you're locked with for the entire game and can't choose, and suddenly the helicopters just get taken out. An elite squad of 32 ghosts sent in on a secret operation by the CIA gets shat on by a swarm of fucking bees, and they crash land on the island, and that's it. Nomad wakes up in this admittedly cool shot. The blood slowly starts to trickle up to the top of his head, revealing he's hanging upside down. A solid metaphor for how a ghost, once fully and always in control of the situation, is slowly understanding that the rules have changed, and everything has been literally turned upside down for Nomad. Yeah, pretty cool. But that's about as far as coolness goes for the rest of this intro. Because then we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 5 fucking cuts to show Nomad falling from the tree. This is a video game, guys. Nomad won't get hurt if you just show him falling in 1 or 2 cuts. You don't need 5 cuts for this fall. Just show him falling and hitting the ground, and good God, who edited this? So Nomad looks around and everyone apparently died in this crash. Well, that's a shame. I guess we're just not going to see any other ghosts for the rest of this story. But rewind. Who are these guys? If we'd had some sort of conversation with the people on the chopper before it crashes, maybe it would at least give some emotional impact on the deaths. But here we just stare at a random dead man on the floor and are supposed to feel shock, sadness, anger? I don't know. Was he even on the damn chopper? Was he just a random pedestrian guy walking on the road who just got squashed when it fell out the sky? We don't know, because we don't know who this guy is. We've never seen him before. Nomad then picks up a pistol and wraps on some bandages and is on his way. At which point we're introduced to the primary antagonist force for this game, the Chad Army.
Clear! Was anyone even in there? If there was, ain't anymore. That's messed up, man.
I fucking can't. Throughout Nomad's journey around the wreckage, we still receive little to no dialogue again from Nomad to explain to the player what's happening. No internal thoughts, no sort of speaking to himself, no radioing anyone to ask questions, to exposit some information, nothing. We don't know how he feels, we don't know what might have happened, what he's thinking about what to do next, what the backup plan is. We just mindlessly walk around the woods as if this was all kind of part of the plan. And eventually we find Weaver and witness what I can only describe as a character assassination more than anything else. Again, if you haven't played Wildlands, you would have no idea who this guy is. He could be a new character for all we know, as so far everyone's kind of been introduced on the same level as almost being a new character. Was that other guy who was dead on the floor by the first helicopter part of our squad? He wasn't, I can tell you that, but you don't know that if you're playing this game for the first time. So let me get this straight. Weaver, your hunter-killer ninja assassin teammate from Wildlands, a hardened CIA operative who alongside only 3 other soldiers covertly took down a countrywide drug cartel, has a name so good that he can snipe bad guys from miles away, goes through 40 plus hours of silent raids, full-on assaults and defense missions with you, decides to squat behind a tiny mound of dirt, closes his eyes, squeezes up like he's a little kid being shot at with a Nerf gun, and just fucking sits there like a toad. Equally, the wolves, who are shooting at him and apparently so terrifying that they convince Weaver that he's about to die, even though he pretty much is okay here. The wolves, an elite group of rogue ghosts trained to hunt and kill better than anyone else on the planet, supposedly, they just walk out into the open firing all of their weapons at once at the same guy. What happens when they run out of ammo and all their guns are going to run out of ammo at the same time? What happens if there's another ghost just slightly off to the left side of Weaver who opens fire on them when they do this? Seriously, what are the tactics here from everyone involved?
I've served with Special Forces for 14 years and have deployed all over the world. I'm also very proud to be a writer on a new Ghost Recon game.
Oh right, sorry, I've never been to war, I don't understand how tactics work. Then they stop firing altogether and they all just sit there like toads, and Weaver's sitting behind his mound of dirt and the wolves are just squatting in the dirt, and it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? It's so tense. We then immediately find out the reason why the wolves have stopped firing is because Shane, the main antagonist of this game, has managed to walk right up behind Weaver, 1, without Weaver noticing, and 2, by somehow dodging the flurry of bullets just fired in that general direction, and Weaver doesn't even notice this happening. And again, instead of doing anything, Weaver forgets all of his training, perplexed that a man is aiming a gun at him, and he dies just fucking right there. He just fucking dies. That's it. That's the end of Weaver. He wasn't bested in a physical fight to the death. He wasn't tricked or outplayed. He simply had someone walk up to him with a gun pointed right at him the entire time and just let him shoot him in the head. And let me tell you, this is just the beginning of the complete what the fuckeriness of this game. So Nomad, after witnessing his brother pretty much get slaughtered, what does he do? He just does nothing. Nothing. He doesn't react. He doesn't say anything. He just kind of just goes, oh no, that's bad. His brother Weaver was brutally and inhumanely killed by a former friend and ally of Nomad, which we learn to find out. And that's it. That's all we get. R.I.P. Weaver. I guess no one really cared about you. Jesus, fuck, that scene was terrible. So then we kind of slide walk with these brand new up-to-date animations all the way to Erewhon. Now, what is Erewhon? The secret, the wolves and the sentinel and nobody else on this bloody island knows about it. Erewhon, the cave that is so hidden that not even drones can track it, yet they have a massive chopper, 4 bikes and 2 jeeps parked out the fucking front on a huge waterfall. When Nomad walks in, there's this really weird bit of dialogue that seems as if this girl is really angry at Nomad, for no reason. She kind of argues nothing against him.
Another one. You can always turn around and go back down the mountain.
And then she says go through to Erewhon, and Nomad rightly asks, what is Erewhon? And everyone said Erewhon too many times. It's like the word bivouac in this game. Everyone says the word bivouac like everyone knows what the word bivouac means and everyone says it in their everyday life. No. And we see fucking Erewhon. What is this place? So, let me get this straight. Breakpoint, supposed to be this solo survival experience, hence why AI teammates were removed from the game, but yet, here we are, with this bunch of copy-paste soldiers, all wandering around, bumping into each other trying to do the same missions. If you're wondering like me, but I thought everyone died in the helicopter crashes, including Weaver, and it was just me left, well, apparently not. There's like 32 players walking around all armed to the teeth. So, did anyone really die? Are these the soldiers that were supposed to be in the helicopter crashes and were part of our squad? Were they here before? Like, who are these people? Why are they in this cave? Where are they from? Why is not everyone dead? Why are we all worried if everyone's... Oh, God. So then we meet Midas. Yet again, you wouldn't know who on earth this character is if you didn't play Wildlands, and he says stupid shit like, "You damn superhero." And I don't even know if that's supposed to be funny or serious. I just don't know. And yeah, he tells him Weaver dies, and he has this little sniffle moment, and that's about it. And we move on. We're introduced to Ocelot and a few other characters who just are a bit boring.
Well, if that's the case...
At which point Nomad reveals in a flashback that he knew Shane all along, and we get this amazing character development here, and we really see the relationship between Nomad and Shane with this scene here. Yep, amazing source of info. We learn so much about their relationship right now. So Nomad knew Shane, cool, I guess. But if you played Wildlands, you already knew that. So again, it's not really new information. Where are they going with this? A bit later on in the next mission, we're introduced to Fox, another member of the Chad army who's not really part of the Chad army, but he's just another Chad living on this fucking island.
This feels great. Like we're gonna kick some ass. This feels awesome.
And this brings me on to, who are the people on this island? Just, seriously, who are they? Who are we here to save? Who are we here to protect? We don't see anyone walking around on this island doing their day-to-day lives. At least in Wildlands, you were in Bolivia, with the native people going about their business, day-to-day lives. Cities existed. And again, it wasn't expanded upon very well, but it was there. And I was hoping that something like this would be expanded upon in Breakpoint, but they seem to have gone backwards. In Wildlands, cities existed, people were working, towns existed, people were driving around in their cars, people were working. The rebels were a prominent force, and you'd see hideouts here and there, and you knew that that was one system. And in Breakpoint, it's just one big fucking world of bad guys on every corner, every road, every building. There's just bad guys everywhere. There's no life. It's just like, this could be literally anywhere. I don't care about this place. I don't know what it is. I don't know what its history is. It's just a bit of land. The island feels lifeless. I don't know the history. I don't feel like anyone lives there. I don't feel like anyone who did live there had been affected by this. The cartel were obviously a menace to people in their day-to-day life in Wildlands. People were being killed, people were hung up on the roads, people were held at gunpoint, cities had districts that were overrun with the gangs, and the Unidad soldiers were threatening militant force that made sense again in the world, and there was clear political upset between Unidad, the cartel, and the rebels, and you and your little four-man squad were just in the middle of it, and you felt like you were in the middle of it. But here you've got these middle-class Chads in their fucking luxury penthouse apartments who are sad that their Alexas aren't listening to them anymore, and that's about it. That's the people who we're here to save. The Chad army, the Sentinels as we find out what they're called, have no idea who they are, what they're doing there. No clue. I thought the Wolves were the bad guys, but apparently the Sentinels are also the bad guys. But are they the... Oh, I don't know. The Sentinel army, the Chad army... They don't have any personal investment in anything. They're just hired goons. The Wolves, again, I guess we'll find out later what their role is, but like, why did they turn? Why are we fighting them? They're all on the same team. Like, the Wolves and the Sentinels are on the same team. It's literally you, solo you, versus everyone on the island. And in a game that they said was a bit to make you feel less like a one-man army, actually puts you in that exact position. It's you versus every single person on the island. Let's quickly skip ahead to the end of this story because it was so fucking boring. So you meet a guy called Josiah Hill who, spoilers, turns out to be a bad guy in the most obvious double cross ever.
And we have a plan to make the world better.
And you find out that Jay Scale is just another Chad and is obviously not the bad guy, but they try and play it off as if he could potentially have been the bad guy. Like, I couldn't believe they actually ran with that. It's just so obvious that Hill is the bad guy and Jace is the good guy. I don't know why they even bothered trying to tell you otherwise. So anyway, that's a twist, I guess. There we go. That's the end of Ghost Recon Breakpoint's beta story missions. Bloody hell. What a shallow, unmotivated, cookie-cutter, heartless attempt to apply context to this bland open world with mechanics somehow worse than Wildlands. In Wildlands, a simple radio call was enough to give context to the mission you were doing. You were constantly on the go and the story didn't break up the gameplay, but here going from place to place just to watch these horrendous cutscenes is such a waste of time and only just manages to distract you from the strange gameplay decisions that they made, which actually made the game painful to play and boring to get through. And there we have it. This video was a focus on the kind of story and narrative aspects of the Breakpoint Beta rather than the gameplay itself. But fuck me, the gameplay is god awful. The gameplay loop is messed up. The tiered loot system is messed up. It's all messed up. In theory, everything about this game should have been great. I loved Wildlands. It was simple at its core, and I hope that a sequel would expand on it, and that would be all it would need to do. But somehow they've just gone in a different direction and messed everything up. So maybe I'll make a video on the mechanics, but I haven't pre-ordered the game because this beta fucking turn me off of it, and I'm not going to buy it at all until it's come out and I see exactly what happens, so we'll see. But yeah, that was the Breakpoint Beta. What a shame, what a shambles, what a fucking mess.
You damn superhero. This feels awesome.